Hi students, this is Video 19, and today we will look at a timesheet. What's a timesheet? Well, a timesheet is a paper that shows the date and times that an employee works. At many jobs, you have to fill out a timesheet. I have to fill out a timesheet every month. And on my timesheet, I write down the days that I teach and the times that I teach. And then my employer knows how much to pay me because they can see how many hours I worked. So your timesheet is a way for employers to know how many hours you worked so they can pay you the right amount of money. So today we are going to look at a timesheet. Let's start. So here is a timesheet, and before we start answering questions, I just want to take a look at the timesheet. So there's a lot of information on here, okay? I see Larry's Discount Store, weekly timesheet. Okay, and I see a chart. I see some signatures at the bottom. So who is the employee on this timesheet? Who is the employee? Remember, an employee is the worker. The person who works at a place is an employee. Okay, employee. Can you say that word with me? Employee. Employee. Okay, an employee is the worker, the person who is doing the job. So who is the employee on this timesheet? Well, it's right there at the top. Laura De Silva. Laura De Silva, okay? She is the employee. So where does Lara work? Where does Lara work? Well, it tells me at the top of the timesheet, she works at Larry's Discount Store. She works at Larry's Discount Store. Okay. How many hours did Lara work this week? So when we look at the timesheet, at the top of the chart, it has the day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then they have the date. Okay, the date is the month and the day. So here is 8/7, which would be August 7th, and it goes all the way to August 11th. Do you see that under date? So we have August 7th, August 8th, August 9th, August 10th, and August 11th. And then it has time in, and that's the time that she gets to work. Okay, she arrives to work. When she gets to work, time in. And then the time that she leaves work is time out. So the time that she stops working is time out. But then we see again time in. Well, that's weird. She has two time ins. Well, yes, that's because she gets a break. Probably a lunch break because she's stopping at noon and then she's starting again at 1. So she arrives at 9 in the first day on Monday. She leaves at noon for lunch and then she comes back at 1. So she has to sign in again and she stays until 4 and then she goes home for the day. So it says in the last column, hours 6, because on Monday, Lara worked 6 hours. So my question is, how many hours did Lara work this week? Well, to find out how many hours she worked this week, you could add up all the days, or if you look at the bottom, it says total hours, and the total hours is 37. So how many hours did Lara work this week? 37 hours. Next question. Is her schedule the same every day? Does it look like her schedule is the same every day? Take a minute to look. No, her schedule is not the same every day. Some days she arrives at 9, sometimes she arrives at 8:30, and on Thursday she even arrived at 7:30. And she also leaves work and takes her lunch break at a different time every day. So her schedule is not the same every day. Next question. Does Lara work the night shift? Does she work the night shift? So remember, the night shift is one of our vocabulary words. If you work the night shift, you work really late hours when other people are sleeping. Usually the middle of the night to the very early hours of the morning, like midnight. Does Lara work the night shift? Well, no. She arrives in the morning and she leaves in the evening, like most people do. So does she work the night shift? And your answer is no. So now we are going to read the questions and look at the timesheet. Then we will fill in the answer. So let's look at the first question. What is Lara's hourly rate? Hourly rate. What does that mean? What is an hourly rate? Well, your hourly rate is how much you get paid for every hour of work that you do. So we see at the top of the timesheet, it says employee, Lara Da Silva, Social Security number, and then rate, $14 per hour. So Lara's hourly rate is C, $14. She makes $14 for every hour that she works. Let's look at the next one. Number 2, when did Lara start work on Tuesday? So on Tuesday, what time did she start work? So we look at Tuesday, and I can see that Lara arrived at B, 8:30. It's right there in the third column. Time in 8:30. Number 3. So which statement is true? Let's read through the statements. A, Laura left work at 4 o'clock on Thursday. So when we go to 4 o'clock on Thursday, did she leave work at 4 o'clock? No. What time did Lara leave work on Thursday? Right, she left work at 3:30. Let's look at B, because that one's not right. Lara started work at 12 o'clock on Tuesday. So when we go to Tuesday, did she start work at 12 o'clock? No. What time did she start work on Tuesday? 8:30. So that's not right. Let's look at C. Lara started work at 8:30 on Tuesday. Did Lara start work at 8:30 on Tuesday? Yes, that is true. On Tuesday, she did start work at 8:30. So your answer here is C. Let's just take a minute to look at answer D. Lara worked for 8 hours on Friday. When we look at Friday, it says no, she worked for 7 hours. It might be hard to read, but she worked for 7 hours on Friday. So that is also not true. Last one. What day did Lara start work at 7:30? So we're going to look at 7:30. And it's only one day that she started work at 7:30. Answer D. So on Thursday, Lara started work at 7:30. Okay. So now I have a question for you. Lara worked 37 hours last week, but the company only paid her for 35 hours. The company only paid her for 35 hours. What should she do? If you fill out a timesheet and your bosses only pay you for part of the time that you work, not all of the time that you work, what would you do? So some choices that they give you are 1, call the manager, 2, wait until next month to see if the 2 hours are on the check, or 3, nothing. And maybe 4, you have another suggestion for Laura. So what would you do if you were Laura? I would call the manager, number 1. Okay, it is important to get paid for the work that you do. And I think Laura's managers would understand. They know they owe her the money. So let's go ahead and take a look at the timesheet one more time. Who is Laura's manager? If she needs to call the manager, who should she call? Take a look at the timesheet and see if you can find who she needs to call. Right, she needs to call Helen Wilson. It says right here on the bottom, Helen Wilson. Okay, that is her supervisor's signature. So her supervisor is her boss, the manager, the person who is responsible, the person who needs to make sure that Laura's timesheet is correct. So if there is a problem and she did not get paid for 2 hours, she needs to talk to Helen Wilson. So now I want you to do some practice on your own. I want you to pause the video, so stop for just a little bit, and look at the timesheet. And then I want you to look at the questions and try to answer the questions on your own. Pause the video and take a look at the timesheet to answer the questions on your own. When you have answered all the questions, push play and we will go over the questions together. Are you ready? Okay, so let's go over the questions together. Did you finish answering? Okay, let's go over the questions together. So now you have another timesheet. And this timesheet is for who? Who is the employee that they list on this timesheet? Ellen, okay? Ellen Fedorka. Okay, so this is a timesheet for Ellen Fedorka. Again, she's the employee. The employee is the worker. The employee is the worker. And where does she work? She works at Big Burger Bar. Okay, at Big Burger Bar. It sounds like she is works at a restaurant. Okay, so let's look at the first question. What is Ellen's hourly rate? So we just talked about that. Hourly rate is how much you make per hour. And what is Ellen's hourly rate? It tells you right there, $8.50 per hour. We can see that at the top, right under her name, $8.50 per hour. When did she start work on Thursday? So when did she start work on Thursday? Well, we look at Thursday and we look at the time in. The time in is the time that she started. And we can see that she started work at 4 p.m. And when, number 3, did she leave work on Tuesday? So now we have to find Tuesday, and they want to know when she left work. Okay, so that's going to be her time out, and it's going to be her final time out. Okay, the last one. So she left work on Tuesday at 11 p.m. At 11 p.m. Okay, number 4. What day did she start work at 5:30 p.m.? So now we need to look at the time end, because start, remember the start is the time in when she began. The time in on when it's 5:30 is on Friday. So when you look down at the third column, we see all the different times that she arrived to work, she got to work. And they're all around 4 o'clock or 4:30. But then on Friday, she doesn't get there until 5:30 p.m. And our number 5, how long is her dinner break? So remember, you have time in, time out, and then you have time in and time out again. And that is because they give you time to take a lunch break, or for Ellen, because she works late hours, a dinner break. So how long is her dinner break? Well, when we look at the time out in the 4th column, okay, the first time it says time out, we see that she takes a break around 7 or 7:30 on most days, and then she goes back to work between 7:30 and 8. And on Friday, she stops working at 9:30 and she goes back to work at 10 p.m. So her dinner break is for 30 minutes. She gets a 30-minute break no matter which day she works. And let's look at the final question. What is the total number of hours she worked this week? So now you needed to do a little bit of math because they didn't tell you the total hours in this chart. You had to fill it in yourself. But it does tell you how much she works each day. So on Monday, she works 6 hours, Tuesday, 6 hours, Wednesday, 6 hours, Thursday, 6 hours, and on Friday, she worked 6.5 hours. So in total, she worked 30.5 hours. If we added all of those hours up, we would get 30.5 hours. How did you do? This is practice reading a timesheet, okay? So we have now looked at 2 timesheets today, and hopefully you are getting better at looking at the chart and finding the information you need. The final thing we are going to do is to do our homework in the workbook. So go ahead and get out your workbook, and you need to do page 100 in the workbook. The page 100 is not a timesheet as we were practicing. Page 100 is working more with the vocabulary. We are almost done with this unit. So next week we will finish the unit, okay? So go ahead, do page 100. We will check it next week, review the unit next week, and I will see you then. Have a good day. Bye-bye.